So a phenomenal thing happened to me on the weekend.
What's that?
Right? As you know, I DJ on the weekends and, do all the glorious shit that you do at a wedding and trying to entertain people.
Yep.
And I'm wearing my Two Blokes T-shirt to set up. Okay? And while I'm sitting there setting up, this bloke was looking at me. He was delivering flowers to the wedding next door to the one I was doing.
Yep.
I was at Sunnybrow, mind you. So 3 weddings on at the same time. Chaotic.
Yep.
Anyway, at the end of the night, I'm packing down and I go load my car up, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, bud, I was listening to your podcast for the last few hours." I'm like, oh, do you know about my podcast? Not realizing that, dumb me, I was wearing my T-shirt before. So he goes to me, "Yeah, well, I saw your T-shirt before," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to check it out." Great episodes. And I'm like, "Oh, which one did you listen to?" And he goes, "Oh, I just clicked on a random one and you were talking about Sunnybrow."
There you go. What are the fucking odds of that?
I'm like, "Oh, what a coincidence." Yeah. So, yeah, he loved it. We got a new fan there. So, shout out to Shano, who...
Shano.
Well, his name was Shane, so I'm just going to say Shano. But shout out to you for the cool words that he said.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I think it was Shane.
Well,
I could be wrong. So if you are listening and, I got your name wrong, sorry. But how cool is that? The power of promotion.
Yep, just by wearing a T-shirt.
T-shirts. And that leads me to, you can get your T-shirts on our website, twoblokesinapod.com.
Yep.
Not .com. Just twoblokesinapod.com. And they're $35. All proceeds are going towards mental health institutions and support groups. So that's it. Now,
This is Two Blokes in a Pod.
Hey, what is that?
The podcast where, well, it's a bit of this, a bit of that.
I don't understand.
Just blokey laughs and blokey chats.
Okay.
Whatever it is, let's get started.
let's get on to the hot topic tonight, the interview that we're about to have.
Yes. Miss Carice, how are you?
I'm good. Hey.
You're flustered, are we?
No, I just think it's hilarious that I'm being interviewed. That's so funny to me. You're welcome.
No, that's good.
Normally when we have people to interview, we have a little bit of a lead in, introducing them and all that. But this is Stamati we're talking about.
Yes, there was no
And
organisation.
he has no idea why you're even here tonight.
Yep.
I don't know why I'm here. It's just going to be chaos. We're going to go rogue.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I spoke to her today, and she goes, "Oh, what are we going to talk about?" You know what? Open mic tonight.
Yeah.
And,
so just imagine that you're sitting across the table from Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's exactly how you should think about it.
Yeah.
Very, very. I mean, those podcasts go anywhere and everywhere. So just imagine that, and we should be on a good level. Yeah,
We're here for it.
That's it. Well,
so go on.
Yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, how we know each other, and all the above.
Yeah, I mean, well, Stamati is my kumbaro. So we've known each other for a long time. We met at an Usher concert.
We did.
Actually. If it weren't for Stamati, I would have been in the back row not being able to see anything. So he carved a way to the front for me. That's also where he met my kumbara. So I take full responsibility for that union.
She does.
Bit of background. I am an OT and occupational therapist. Been working in the allied health space. This is my 11th year now, so I've been around the traps for a little while. Worked in a few different areas, from like return to work cover, injury through aged care, specialising sort of in that dementia management kind of space and healthy ageing. And then in the last sort of 4 years have moved into the disability NDIS space where my sort of niche at the moment, is the trauma mental health space for adolescents and young adults. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's my background. That's what I do day to day. And yeah, it's me.
So trauma and mental health, are we talking about adolescents and youth that have come out of pretty toxic families and environments and stuff like that?
Yeah, it does. It does vary. But a lot of my clients, in the adolescent space in particular, have got a trauma background. So there might have been an incident that happened when they were younger. Family dynamics, more often than not, they've been removed from the home. So it's working around that like reunification pathway to try and get them home. Also while providing therapy and intervention to sort of help them manage their emotions, manage their trauma. 9 times out of 10, these children are coming through with comorbidities, so they'll have a disability in addition to having experienced trauma. So, ASD, autism spectrum disorder, is a really common one, ADHD, things like that. So that's what we see a lot of. Yeah.
And the difference between a occupational therapist in your current field to an occupational therapist that goes and helps someone put rails in their homes to, grab rails and that, obviously a very big difference. You've experienced both spaces, yeah?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
And would this be a bit more of a strenuous path of OT?
It's different. Yeah, it's definitely more mentally and emotionally taxing for sure. Same sort of concepts and principles in terms of the approach. OT is a very person-centered, holistic occupation. So we're very person-centered. So the way we approach it is very similar. We use a lot of the same, models. But in terms of like the actual emotional impact, it is a lot more difficult, I think, day to day. That being said, when you are working with the elderly populations, there's a lot of, comorbidities and mental health concerns in those spaces as well. So you might be going to install grab rails, but you go into their home, they invite you in, you learn a bit about them, and they're widowed or they're struggling with a disability themselves. So, I think anything in the health space can be quite emotionally taxing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that just sounds like, for me, I don't know. It just, like for you, it would just be, you go to work, you come home, and it's just taxing on you as well, like dealing with it all, day in, day out, or is it more of a rewarding, thing to do for yourself?
You learn to separate it.
Yeah.
You do. And you learn the hard way. So, I would guarantee you 9 out of 10 people doing this role would burn out, and then they would kind of learn that they have to separate what they do at work from their home life.
Yeah. Did it take a little bit of getting used to at the start? Like,
it does.
You're coming home, like, to your husband, and like, say if you had a shitty day at work, does that, at what point did you learn to separate the two things?
It does, because, you're working in an industry where you're dealing with people all day, every day. So you're talking to people, you're engaging them, you're dealing with their problems. And then you come home. I don't want to talk to anyone. Like, I'm not interested like that. Like, I need to wind down. So it does. It impacts your family life and your home life. That being said, I guess the counter to that is that when you get good outcomes, it is very rewarding. Sometimes you're the only person that individual has seen or spoken to in the week, so you do play a profound role in their lives. So it definitely has its downsides in terms of it being draining and taxing, but the outcomes that you can get and the relationships that you develop are worth that, I think.
100%. I think so. Yeah. So, where do you find that there's some room for improvement in your field, or I don't know.
Are you asking about the profession itself or the systems that we work in?
Ooh, we can do both.
Yeah. Look, I think the profession in itself is a really underutilised profession. I think we are really well equipped to handle lots of different things. In terms of the systems, they're very broken. I don't know how much detail I can go into, but they are very, very broken.
When we say systems, are we talking about, I guess you're working in Adelaide Health, so you're working very closely with the medical networks and I guess the hospital networks as well. But are we talking specifically about, like maybe the support of government in mental health space and?
Yep, all of it.
Yeah.
So I'm talking look, all of that starts at government level, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The government's in control of what happens in the healthcare space. It sort of starts there, but the hospital systems themselves are under-resourced, understaffed, very broken. In terms of community supports and things like that, they've tried to, I guess, reduce the amount of time that people are spending in acute care, like in the hospitals. So they've tried to put resources and funding into the community space, but it's not enough.
No.
It's not enough. And then people fall through the cracks, especially in the mental health space. You see a lot of people where they try to go to hospital, they try to get help, they do get a little bit of help, but then there's kind of nowhere for them to go after that. So they'll kind of fall through the cracks. And then you've got things like the NDIS, they've overspent billions, and so that eventually has to come to a bit of an end the way it's currently structured, because there's no way that we can continue the way we're going with the amount of spending that the NDIS does. And then you've got like the aged care system, that's also very broken. There was that recent Royal Commission, and it's all about how do we reduce cost while improving client care. There's a lot of room for improvement, and every political party promises that they're going to get better,
You hear that all the
or they're
time.
going to do better than the opposition, and they never really do. I think a great example, you guys would have seen like the latest when we had the last state election, was that a year or two ago now? It was all about ramping.
The ramping, yeah.
The ramping's worse now. There's probably a myriad of reasons for that, but when you've got I guess
funny.
politicians making decisions like that.
Yeah, it's funny. You don't really see it much on the news anymore, do you? It was only probably the lead up to the election where you see all that sort of stuff.
And that'll
Well, you
100%
do.
happen again.
You do see it, and you see now the current opposition, who was the one the current government was fighting against about the ramping, is now turning back and going, what have you done about the ramping? It's the worst. So it's going to become another political issue when the next election comes around.
But how do you fix it?
Well, you can't. How do you fix ramping?
How do you fix ramping? I think that, so we had
More hospital beds.
Why do we need more hospital beds? I think look, we had ramping, and now in the last 2 years we've had an increase in ramping, but we've also had the number of hospitalisations go up astronomically. Why? I don't know. I can't tell you exactly. I've got a few ideas, but I think it is really, really complex when we're seeing 20-30% increase in cardiac events and stroke and things like that. And then we've got the same number of beds, the same number of staff, and not enough places to put them, really.
I'm just going to... So you mentioned about, the hospital system trying to remove people from hospital as quick as possible and put them into a community care system, right? So a few years ago, I had a really bad bout of cellulitis back to back. And I'd go to the hospital every time to get treated properly, like through IV and everything. But what they would do is they would keep me in to give me a couple of shots of IV, and then they would send me home with that hospital at home care package and all that, right?
Yeah.
There was one time where they sent me, because I was admitted into hospital, they gave me the in-hospital package. But there was the other time that I just got the RDNS nurses coming out to my house. But this one was actual nurses from the Calvary. There was 2 days where they couldn't make it to my house to give me my antibiotics.
Yeah.
And I rang the hospital going, look, how am I meant to get better if these guys are missing out? Like, can I come back to hospital? No, we've got no space for you. I said, well, I've gone 48 hours now without any antibiotics.
You needed them daily?
So they put me on this thing. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like a big pouch of saline, and they pump into that the antibiotics for 24 hours, and it slowly every hour pumps into my veins I can't remember what it's called, but I had to keep a bag hanging off of me for the whole day, right? And it would slowly pump the drugs through me. They didn't come to refill it the next night or the night after that because they were too busy, and then the nurse was like real late to, knock off, and he couldn't get to my house. And they said they'd come the next morning. Never did. And then again, I missed it that next night. So I rang the hospital freaking out because I'm like, I want to get better. You've sent me home. I could have stayed in hospital for a few extra days and you guys could have been giving me this every 4 hours. But no, you've done this to me. That's fine, whatever. But I'm not getting treated. So it became it actually became a massive, massive issue with the hospital system at that time.
And that's not even public, that's private.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, how under the pump the public system
sector.
is.
Yeah.
It's and obviously they're going to prioritise what's high risk. So things that are acute events, they're going to, prioritise and be like, oh yeah, you'll be right. But at the end of the day, you're still dealing with an infection.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to miss your antibiotic dosages.
No.
So yeah,
It's that type of infection where if it's not treated, it would get into the bloodstream
Absolutely.
and then cause staph, and I could lose a leg, even die from infecting the blood. But
it's a massive issue. It's a
who do
massive
you
issue.
complain to about that?
No one.
Don't know. I can't tell you.
Yeah. But yeah, no. Look, the hospital system at the moment. I mean, I don't think it's just Adelaide. I just think it's
across the
Australia
board.
wide.
It's across the board. And look, I mean, even if you go overseas, I'm sure it's the same. It's just, people are just sick. And
No one can seem to get it quite right, can they?
And you know what? You're never going to get it right because everyone's so individual, and you're never going to get it 100%. But we're in a sort of situation now where things just seem to look more dire than they have, I suppose, in like recent years. It's not. I mean, look, like I've got a relative in hospital at the moment who is quite unwell in one of our big public hospitals, and she needed a nerve block for a joint pain. She's got a contracture in her shoulder, needed a nerve block, and in the whole hospital they couldn't find a portable ultrasound machine to be able to deliver the nerve block. So they were like, we can refer her to the outpatient ultrasound clinic, but that'll be a 2-month wait. And I'm like, how do we not have a mobile ultrasound machine in this hospital? So I'm like, this is Australia though. So it's really scary when you sort of look at it and go, shit, like we're under-resourced here. Why are we under-resourced?
Was she admitted
what's
as a
going
public
on?
patient or a private patient?
Private patient, but in the public hospital. Yeah. So... But not that it matters, right?
No,
It doesn't matter if you're
shouldn't matter.
private or public. Like if you need the care, you need the care, and that's just the reality of the situation. But yeah, staff in hospitals and in community health are doing it really tough. And I'm not quite sure what the fix is. I just know it's an issue, and they need to be doing more about it because eventually we're all going to need healthcare. We're all going to get sick. We're all going to have to access it, so they're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
But does talking about healthcare though, do you find it like the price of healthcare?
Oh,
I mean, look, okay, I get the whole you can't put a price on health, right?
yeah, I know.
But when you're paying astronomical prices,
Are you talking about private health?
like
cover?
I'm talking $500 a month for private health.
Private health, that's
You know,
Well, I'm paying
Something-
$175 a week.
yeah. So you're on
175
par. You're on par.
Yeah.
Right. So, and out of that, how often would you use your private
Fuck
health?
all. Fuck all. Really. But it's the time that so for example, my old man, right? He had a few years ago had a back injury and it just came out of nowhere. Honestly, like he had a chicken shop back in Mount Gambier, and he was taking the spits off. As he turned like this, he collapsed on the floor, snapped a vertebrae. All right. They flew him to Melbourne for this operation because they didn't have the, I don't know, resources or whatever in Mount Gambier at the time. As he was sleeping, ready for the surgery the next morning, he snapped another one. Just out of nowhere, just snapped. And so he had 2 snapped vertebrae. Now,
What was he powerlifting in his sleep? Or something?
fuck, I don't know, man, just shit luck, right? And yeah, they said I think it was I don't know if that one there was an $80,000 operation. Now, being a private patient, they use a different kind of material than they would in the public. This is what he was saying to me. I may be wrong, whatever, but 80 grand for that operation. So that one time you need it, it's a big ticket item. Or even
So he didn't pay the 80 because
No.
he did it under private health.
correct, yeah. And my stepbrother as well, he has a heart condition, and yeah, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars when you start talking heart.
All right, okay.
But how often do these things happen? It's like having car insurance, right? Your premiums are going through the roof, but it's that one time you need it. It could be a $50,000 crash,
Yeah, true. True.
but you don't have it. You have it. Like, what do? You need it. It's insurance.
I think though, like if it's a condition that's really going to put your life at risk, like you're having cardiac
will
arrest,
have-
they're gonna tend to in a public hospital.
Correct.
You're not going to get left.
No, you won't.
Whether you've got private health or not. Yeah, I don't know.
Is the care different though?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Do you
I don't
know what the
I
funny
can't-
thing
I
is?
can't answer that.
Most of the doctors that you would get in the private sector actually work out of public hospital
They
anyway.
work across both, and yeah, and a lot of the major surgeries, like if you do have a major stroke and need to get a clot removed or whatever, like they're going to take you to the
It'll
RA
happen,
because
yeah.
that's where all of our top specialists are. That's where they've got the resources to do those surgeries. The private hospitals are smaller generally and aren't as well equipped to deal with things like that. So you're going to end up in like a RA if you've got something that's
So then, what's the point of having these private hospitals? Is it to just take the load off the public system?
they're just a private entity. You have a private hospital. I mean, they do a lot of good work.
Of
you know,
course,
like you go.
yeah.
I mean, like things like elective surgery. A lot of those are done through the private system. Sorry, elective surgery. If you've got private health to have a baby, for example. But like with your private health to have a baby, you're only paying for the room. You're not paying for the doctors or for the scans or anything like that. You're literally paying your private health
you're
is just for the
100%.
room. Whereas in the public system, if you have a baby, they'll just push you out after a day.
If everything goes well, they'll push you out.
Everything goes well, yeah,
But
absolutely.
if you're in the private system and something goes wrong with
They
the
send you to
birth,
women's and kids anyway.
they send you to the women's
or
and children's
Flinders,
anyway.
yeah.
Or Flinders, yeah.
yeah,
So I know someone that she gave birth at a public hospital. It's only really one. It's either Flinders or Women's and Kids. But yeah, she had the baby in the morning, and then that afternoon she was home. It's like far out, man. It's
Yeah,
a bit
well,
rough.
if
if
all
you're
goes-
healthy, baby's all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they'll do. Yeah, because there's other people that need that bed. That's where we're at.
But are all the beds utilised at all these public
Yeah.
hospitals?
They're utilised. Hospitals are full. They're not running on empty.
Because I know for a while there at the RA, they weren't. The whole hospital wasn't open for quite a while. Is it still that? Is that still the case?
No.
What?
Yeah,
Was that when they built it? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it was like 6 months after that I know of.
Yeah, I don't know. No, it's definitely not running at like reduced capacity. They're definitely full.
Far out. How many beds do we have there?
I don't know. I'd have
Less
to-
than what the old one was.
Yeah, but they're all individual rooms. So I guess you got to weigh up the pros and cons.
Yeah.
Individual
Yeah.
bathrooms, toilets, infection control. It's a much
I
better
remember back in
system.
the old days visiting people that went to the RA and they
Yeah.
had to share a room with 6 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you'd be sitting there having a conversation all of a sudden behind the curtain. Yes!
Flinders still have those wards. Those wards still exist at Flinders. 4 people with a curtain, 1 bathroom.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of anything worse.
jeez.
But that's
All right, going a little bit off track now. I mean, I don't know why we're talking about
No idea.
birthing and all
Yeah.
that, but I guess
Yeah.
it's all part of the health
Health
system,
system.
right? So I just want to get a little bit controversial here because you raised something before and, ringing these little silent alarms in my head going, "Oh, we got to talk about that." So you know, one of the things you said earlier was we've had an increase in
Cardiac.
issues. We've had an increase in people being hospitalised in the recent years. Now, currently, like I haven't heard this word for quite some time, but you know, we've got this thing called COVID, which came out of nowhere. Apparently, someone ate a bat.
Yeah.
And then, you know, infected the whole world rapidly. Within 48 hours, the whole of Wuhan apparently got this virus. I don't hear the word anymore. It's like it never even happened. But what has happened in the meantime is people have been taking vaccines, all sorts of different remedies and methods to somehow keep themselves alive from a cold and flu. Do you believe that this is...
Oh, this is going to be a long episode.
Do you believe that this is where the problem lays with the increase in hospitalisations?
I don't know. I can't say yes or no. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. As an individual who I suppose has, you know, looked into it enough to kind of have an idea, I think that like Australia has the largest amount of excess death since World War II. So this is the first time we've seen death like this since World War II. Recently in Parliament, I don't know if you guys saw about 2 months ago, Senator, I think it was Babbitt, who is, I think, part of the UAP, took to Parliament basically that they wanted to do an investigation into the excess deaths that were occurring. And they voted, I think the vote was like 31-30. So all the Greens, Labor, Pollies voted against having the investigation. All of the Independents and the Liberals voted for it. So it's there. It's a problem. Even our government has acknowledged it's a problem, and they want to do an investigation. I don't know why there are excess deaths, and I don't know why there's increased hospitalisation, but it's enough to trigger our government to be looking into it and to do something about it.
31 for, 31 against?
31 for, 30 against. So so it was very close, but enough to trigger an investigation, I suppose, or to start the process of looking into why we've got all of this happening. It's really hard to say. Like, I can't sit here and say, yeah, I think this is what's caused it, but I think we'd be stupid not to look into it, because like there are a lot of issues. There are a lot of issues, and there are a lot of people now. You probably again recently, it's all kind of happening at the moment, but recently saw that individual here in SA who was awarded compensation due to his employer was liable because of the vaccine mandate. So it's happening. It's real. It's something that, you know, we weren't really allowed to talk about for a really long time, because, you know, you're at risk of losing your registration or being, basically being unable to work, or stripped of your right to work, especially as a health professional. Very, very interesting. Can't say for sure, but I think we would be silly to ignore that a mass vaccine mandate rollout hasn't potentially caused some issues in the population.
You know, the thing that not freaked me but shocked me more so is the speed of this vaccine coming out. Like, all of a sudden, we've got this new pandemic that is killing people, and next minute, we've got a vaccine for it. But the vaccine wasn't to kill it or prevent it. You could still get it. It was just to lessen the effects of it.
I think initially the claim was that it did stop or reduce transmission, but then we really quickly found out that wasn't the case. You know, we had a really large percentage of the population vaccinated, and it was still spreading like wildfire. And the thing, you know, about viruses and pathogens is they're really smart. Like, you know, you introduce a vaccine, they adapt.
Just mutates.
That's how they survive. They're programmed to survive, and that's what they do really well. They mutate, they adapt, just like the flu every year. You know, there's a new strain every year. You might get your vaccine that has the 3 or 4 strains that will kind of protect you from those, but you end up catching the flu anyway because it's a strain that hasn't been covered in that particular vaccine. So, and that's what's happening with COVID. How many variants are we up to now? I don't know. I don't even know. Like I've lost count.
So
and
they
that's
went
just what
through the whole
happens.
Greek alphabet.
Yeah.
And I think now they're currently on the Chinese alphabet.
Great.
Yeah.
So we're at least 24 in. I don't know exactly, but
What's the number of jabs now we're up to?
I don't know. I've got no idea. But
I don't know.
five or 6.
5.
I think. Yeah.
No, it was your initial 3
Yeah.
and then a new one every 6 months.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2020 is when it all came out, and
Yeah.
say 21 is when the jab started, right? So you got 2 in 21, then you had to have your 3rd one, and then every 6 months from there.
Look, I
So you'd be up to your 7th one now.
No, it's ridiculous. Look, I was very, and you can ask anyone, I was very against getting this vaccination because I just thought it was, for me anyway, I thought it was dog shit. All right. And I remember them bringing in, you can't go interstate without it. You can't go to work without it. You can't do this. You can't do that. All that sort of stuff. And then they started talking about getting kids that won't be able to go to school without it and all this sort of stuff. And I said to Katrina, I go, listen, so this is when I think we're going through the IVF process, right? And I said, there's no fucking way you being pregnant, you getting the vaccination. I don't give a fuck what the doctors say, whatever. They can't not deliver you health care based on
Correct.
you not having the vaccination. And then they sort of backpedaled on kids under 5 or under 12. I can't remember now, getting the vaccination. They said, look, maybe not, whatever. But then they said pregnant women should get it. Is that right?
It changed really quickly. So I think at one point it was like, if you're pregnant, don't get it. Then 2 weeks later, it's like, if you're pregnant, it's safe. And I remember at the time thinking, like, have we gathered enough data in 2 weeks to determine that it's safe in pregnancy? Like, do we know? So, yeah, it changed rapidly, like you said, really, really quickly. And that was the point where I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, we're not stupid, but people were scared. Yeah. So people just did what they were told because they were scared.
Yeah. So then
I just, I'm very amazed that this virus could tell when you were standing and holding an alcoholic
go
drink.
to the pub, you need to sit down.
And it won't affect you if you were sitting down.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think, and like every state kind of did it a little bit differently. I think we were particularly lucky with the people in charge here. They were an interesting lot. We even had that famous pizza box variant that nowhere else in the world had seen. It was jumping from pizza box to person.
Yeah.
And you watch that and you think, like, are people actually believing this shit at this point? And in the end it wasn't. Like, the guy was secretly working 2 jobs and it was a whole big thing. Yeah. Like, no,
I was painting your dad's house when that whole kicked off.
That whole thing kicked off. And I just remember thinking, this is ridiculous. But you couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Can I just say the favorite part of mine during COVID was every day, without fail, 11 a.m., Stephen Marshall on a live stream on Facebook.
Saying the numbers.
And reading the comments. Oh, my God. I remember there was one time where he was like, today's numbers were da-da-da. And then underneath there was like some guy going, hey, Stephen, selling my VH at Calais, quite dirt cheap. And I just cracked up laughing, going, not the time and place, but that is good. That is good. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. It was just the whole COVID experience was. I mean, even for me, as a wedding DJ, I lost all
Hugely
my business.
Impacted. Yep.
All my business for the following 2 years.
Yep.
And when I was eventually allowed to go back into it, it was you either
people?
dance, 50 people, or. And you're either allowed to dance or you're allowed to have alcohol.
Yeah, you couldn't have both at the same time.
And I'm like, how the hell? I mean, look, I don't need alcohol to have a good time. But
it helps.
But it helps, especially when it comes to weddings and dancing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I did a wedding where they chose the alcohol and no dancing. Now you tell me,
That's right.
how do you stop a person that's drunk
Yeah.
from
Not to dance.
not moving?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just had to be seen to be doing something. I think it was yeah, I don't know. Look, we've already sort of gone down the rabbit hole. I think it was just a massive power trip, to be completely honest with you. Because, it didn't matter how long they locked us down for. Eventually it was going to get in, it was going to spread. It just is what it is. We pushed it back. They opened the borders over that Christmas. Stephen Marshall got absolutely railed for that. And what was he supposed to do? What, keep the state closed forever? We had a stupid vaccination rate. It had to be close to 80% or something. What were they supposed to do at that point? It was always going to happen.
But if you're going to tell me that by having the vaccination, it sort of somewhat protects you, right? So then why couldn't he? If that's what they're saying, then why couldn't he open the borders?
Because everyone was terrified. Everyone was scared. But also you had the what's her name, the health minister. I'm just
The
gonna
chief health officer.
Yeah, old mate Nicola.
Nicholas Spurrier.
I'm just gonna say here for the I've forget that I'm even a health professional at this point.
I was going to say, isn't she
'cause-
technically your boss?
No, I don't. I do not work for SA Health.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think let's just have a chat as friends now. It was follow the science. It was what
science?
What are you are you going to tell me that natural immunity is not as good, if not better than the vaccines?
That's
come
right.
on.
It's all coming back to me now.
It's all coming back to you now because we all caught, my whole family caught COVID from my kumbara
at our house.
at their house, and we
Awesome.
all caught it, and
So
none
we're under 10 people at my house.
under
I'm going to
10
say
people. It was all
above board.
Stamati was the only one that was vaccinated at that point out of 9 of us. He was the only one vaccinated.
And can I just say,
was this during Katrina's pregnancy?
yeah,
Yes.
Where she
with
had
Theodore.
it? Yeah.
So she
Yes.
got it twice being pregnant.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I got vaccinated, and I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, because that was the only way to get into the hospital.
Correct.
Yeah, you've told this many times on this
yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. So-
Sorry to all our listeners who have heard that about
Just
5
wanna
times.
put it
Yeah,
out there.
sorry guys, I haven't listened to all the episodes. Just the one with Sarah Game and I fangirled. So he was the only one that was vaxxed and was the only one that got sick. The rest of us were completely asymptomatic. It was a waste of time, whatever. So I'm kind of sitting here going, okay, we've all caught it, we're all done with it now. It wasn't that big a deal. And I understand that, there were certain populations of people, I'm not stupid, there were certain populations of people that were more vulnerable and susceptible. The elderly, people that had comorbidities, diabetes, things like that. They were obviously going to be more susceptible. And they should have taken more care and potentially the vaccine was right for them. But for the average person, forcing that on them or threatening them with their livelihoods was an absolute joke, and there was no data or science to support that. And that's just, I suppose that's just where I stand. I actually left aged care at the end of 2020 because I knew what was coming. I knew that aged care staff would be the first hit in terms of vaccine mandates. And from that point, I was I'd already made my decision before anything was even released. I'm not doing this. And I'm not an anti-vax person in general. I've fully vaccinated otherwise. So I moved into the disability space thinking I can buy more time here. And I did. I got probably an extra year out of it. And I think aged care came in mid 2021 and I got till November 2021. And then I left. I actually left my job because I was I'm not fucking doing this. And I called SA Health when they introduced, or the week before the mandate had come into effect. And I said to the person on the phone, who I think was just someone that they employed, because they knew their phone lines were going to be busy. I was I've been working in the NDIS space for the last almost year. And the majority of that time has been via Zoom, telehealth, because we haven't been able to go out anywhere, lockdowns, whatever. And that's been fine. So I was you're telling me now that I have to be vaccinated to do a Zoom call because I'm putting my client at risk if I'm doing telehealth. And they said, yes, even for telehealth, you have to be fully vaccinated.
Oh.
And I
This
actually
voice
said,
can go
I was
through
like,
those speakers,
yeah,
man.
I was like, so you're telling me that I'm putting people at risk by being in my home and doing therapy online? And she's like, they're the rules. That's just what it is.
That's some Freddy Krueger shit right there.
And I'm sitting there going like, okay, like that's all well and good, but can you explain to me how this works from a scientific infection control perspective? Because it makes no sense to me at all. So they were just the times, and that's just what we had to like live with, and it was ridiculous. And yeah, 4 years later, the mandates for SA health staff only got dropped about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right.
that right?
Yeah,
That's
so they
right.
were in full effect up until about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
But did you need to be up to date with your boosters?
You had to have your 3. You had to have your 3 up until 2-3 weeks ago. Natural immunity
Wow.
didn't count, didn't matter if you had it. You had to have.
So now if you haven't had any, you can go back into the workforce.
This is only for SA health staff, and no. So if you've had none, you can go back into the workforce if you sign a disclaimer saying that you understand that the vaccines are safe and effective, they reduce transmission, they reduce the severity of the disease, and that you've chosen to go against the health advice. So unless you sign that disclaimer, no, you can't go back to work.
So you get blackmailed anyway.
Basically,
So
yeah.
even if you don't believe it, you really
have to sign it to get
away.
back to work.
Fuck,
Yeah,
it's bullshit.
yeah, it's actually insane. Yeah, it's actually crazy to me. And I think more people are sort of or have shifted to the position of we realise how silly it was now. But like I still think that there are a lot of people out there that are scared or think that people that
I see it all the
don't
time
believe it.
with my
Yeah.
line of work. Like there are a lot of people that hesitate to let me in their home
Yeah.
because they're afraid that I'm a carrier.
Yeah, but that's crazy to me. Like everybody's had it at this point, and if
Yeah.
they haven't, they've been exposed.
Haven't you?
I've never had COVID.
Well, you may have had it and not know.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
I've never tested positive. I've tested myself many times,
Yeah.
but I've never tested positive. My kids haven't.
Yeah.
My wife has.
Wow.
She's had it.
Yeah, kids weren't particularly susceptible, and even if they did catch it, they were virtually asymptomatic. And I
Yeah.
think that was the part that was frustrating. I think again, I'm a firm believer in protecting the vulnerable and the elderly, but I think for young children and for adults that are healthy,
Dimitri got it.
there was no need to force it on anybody.
No. So that time when we all got it.
Yeah.
So it was Katrina. It was Katrina that sort of gave it to everyone. So she must have, I don't know, because she worked at DJ's at the time. So she got it first. We went out for dinner the night before with our neighbours, and then we had Carice and her family over. Then it was when they all left, Katrina felt a bit off.
She got a temperature.
Literally 10 minutes after they left. And I said, look, maybe just, she goes, I don't have it. I'm like, just test yourself. Boom, came up positive straight away. I was like, fuck, who do I got to call now? I got to call the neighbours. They both ended up in hospital. He ended up with he was coughing up blood because he had micro bleeds or tears or something in his lungs and stuff. So he copped it fucking pretty bad. His wife,
Do they still talk to you?
yeah, we're neighbours. Yeah, you just, how you going? That's
That's it now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Katrina fucked them off. Yeah, and then I called Carice and the fam, and they all copped it. So, but I didn't cop it up until. So I think it was how long do we have to?
You said
7 days at the time.
towards
10
the end
days
of
Towards the
her.
end, right?
Yeah.
So it was.
So did Katrina have to isolate?
she stayed in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Dimitri and I, we were just roaming around the house. So I would just make her dinner, and then it was like a jail. I'd put it next to the bedroom door, knock on the door, I'd fuck off. She'd grab the plate, whatever. But then, it was the last day or two where she had to isolate. Then Dimitri and I tested positive because we were going to that bloody what was in the city there. You had to go get tested.
Victoria Park. Yep.
Yeah, so the last day we thought, we'll go get tested or whatever, and we both came back positive. I had like pretty bad headaches. I felt a bit lethargic, but that was it. Dimitri, mate, you wouldn't even fucking know. He was outside kicking the soccer ball and this and that, so he was fine.
The worst part of all of it, like I didn't go get PCR tested because I was like, whatever. I did a rat test, it was positive. I stayed home, whatever. Like, I didn't feel the need to go and get a PCR test. I didn't feel the need to be on a register of people that were sick. My sisters did, and that was fine. But like they were at home. And you had to like register your address where you were staying if you were PCR
People were
positive.
driving past us.
Yeah, they had
came right up to our house.
They had the cops at their door.
Yeah, same.
And they like rang the doorbell, being like, "We need to check that so and so is here." And I'm sitting here going like, "Are we in Australia? Like, what is this? Like, how have we become such a nanny state? And how is this actually happening? Like, where they're actually checking to see where we are at any given time." It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
I
was buzzing out.
It's the only way to put it.
Coppers in front of our house. They called me. They go, "Can you come to the front door? Can you wave?" I waved. And I was like, "What the fuck, man? Are you serious?" They came like 3 times.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's actually crazy.
Couldn't believe it.
But the crazier part to me is that people tolerated it. Like that to me is the like crazier.
That's the crazy part, that people accepted it.
Yeah. And that's, if they had introduced those mandates and a really large percentage of the population said, no, we're not going to do this, there's no way they could have forced it on anybody because the whole, like everything would have stopped.
Yeah. I think that's why it eventually stopped.
But not enough. Well, no, by the end of it, I think they had enough people vaccinated. I don't think it was that at all.
2 years. I can't believe he went for 2 fucking years.
It was a long time. And there was a lot of anxiety. Like, I mean, we probably didn't cop it as bad as, other places like Victoria. Like places overseas. But yeah, it wasn't good circling back for anybody's like mental health. Health in general.
That's the problem that it's caused now.
It's caused a massive epidemic of mental health.
Yeah.
And it's caused, a lot of people, weren't going out to get tested for things like cancers, diabetes, whatever. So their conditions were being left unmanaged. And so they're more sick. In my area of practice, like a lot of the children that I was seeing at the time that have ASD and other issues with things like emotional regulation and communication, there was huge like regression. As a child who struggles to understand emotion and to communicate with people, you put a mask on your face and you put a mask on their face. They've got no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And so we saw a massive regression in communication, emotional regulation, mental health, which is sad. But, I suppose that was the priority at the time. And unfortunately, it played a massive impact. And we're seeing that still trickle through to now. And I think the generation, like the younger generation that came through that time, I think there's going to be a lot of issues. Like I think we're going to see a lot of things pop up
and
later on.
That's where I think the problem with our government is that they were too worried about getting people jabbed and keeping the state closed and all the, just making sure things were happening to not let it happen. They never focused on what this could do mentally to people.
On the issues. No, and it was about getting the right vaccine into people too. Like you had your big three, you had your Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca has since been pulled, so you actually can't get it in Australia anymore because
but that was early, wasn't it?
Of all the issues. Oh, the last maybe 12 months, I reckon, maybe the last 6 months even.
I thought it was like during the pandemic it got pulled.
Yeah, they kind of started, so it was like, if you're under 60, you shouldn't get it. But that was after like a heap of people had it. Anyway, so that's been pulled now completely.
So is it just Pfizer and
Moderna
Pfizer and Moderna
Moderna were the mRNAs.
mRNAs, yeah. And then there was a vaccine called Novavax, which was
that's the one.
protein-based. Yeah. And this is where I was getting really sort of, I guess, shitty with the whole thing because, I would watch these press conferences with like Nicola Spurrier, and there were a big group of people that had done their due diligence and decided that the mRNA technology wasn't appropriate for them. They didn't want to take the risk, and they thought, well, there's this vaccine that's on the market overseas that's been approved. that is a more traditional vaccine method, protein-based method. We're going to take that vaccine when it comes to Australia. And I've got her on the TV sitting there telling me that there's no difference in the way it's delivered, there's no difference in its mechanism of action, when we know that there's a massive difference. Like, we've got a type of vaccine that's been tried and tested for decades, much like our flu vaccines and whatever else, versus something that they've only recently introduced. So that's what I ended up waiting for. But it took them a really long time to approve it. And it was only, I think, like the Pfizer thing started like in the July, August of 21. Novavax didn't get approved till February, March 22. So you're talking 7-8 months where people had already been double, triple jabbed and didn't need to wait for Novavax.
What ended up happening with that other vaccine that was...
Covax.
Covax. What ended up happening with that?
Yeah, so there's a professor of endocrinology, and he's also a vaccine developer here in South Australia. His name's Dr. Nikolai Petrovsky. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah.
So he developed a vaccine that was approved for use in the Middle East, I think in Iran in particular, and most countries now recognise it. We're one of the only countries that don't recognise this vaccine, incredibly.
Homemade. And
he has, because he took his own vaccine and didn't take a Pfizer or Moderna or AstraZeneca at the time, he was unable to continue work at Flinders Hospital. And they've recently shut down his cancer research that he's doing as well. So he's a really interesting guy. Anybody that's listening to this, you should definitely look into Nikolai Petrovsky. He is a vaccine developer, the furthest thing from an anti-vax person that you'll find, but he's such a champion of free speech and freedom of choice, and a really intelligent individual. And he's been doing a lot of work with lawyers now who are taking companies to court over the vaccine mandates and vaccine injuries as the expert witness in those cases, and they're doing really, really well. They've won a lot of cases. So definitely look into him. He's an interesting guy, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to continue his research here in South Australia because he's been red listed. Or blacklisted rather, sorry. But yeah.
That's just ridiculous. Like, how many people this guy would have helped throughout his career, and because he tried to find an alternative vaccine where really
he did. He did, and it's really, really effective with minimal side effects.
Yeah.
None. Like it's
just no big ticket item.
Well, no, there wasn't a contract with the federal government, I suppose. I'm not really sure. I know it sounds a bit conspiratorial, but I guess the proof's in the pudding.
Basically, the big farmers were paying off the government. Here, make them take this, make them take this.
Pfizer have come out and admitted that they lied about, its effectiveness in terms of transmission and disease severity.
They've admitted they lied, or they just got it wrong?
No, they admitted that they
were just full of shit.
Yeah, a lot of those records have come out now. They didn't say that they were full of shit.
What did you take?
I think it was Pfizer, the first one.
Oh, you did a mix and match.
He did a mix and match. He did the special.
Oh, I can't even remember now. Did I do Moderna? I don't know.
No, I think you did Pfizer. I think you actually called me and we spoke about it.
Yeah.
I think you did a
twice?
Pfizer. Yeah, I think you did a couple of those. Yeah.
So I was too worried. Like I was, I got told because I only did one.
Yeah.
I only did one shot.
Yeah.
Because at the time that I did it, there was something floating around my workplace that it was going to get mandated.
Sure.
And I'm like, fuck, I really don't want to lose my job just
That's
because,
the thing.
I wasn't in the position to resign, I couldn't. And I did one shot. And then it came to the second one and they're like, oh yeah, you can take this one or you can do that one. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Why would I go Pfizer the first time and then go have something completely different the second time?
Well, you're fucked.
Well, there's
anyway.
certainly no long-term studies to suggest that those were safe together. I mean,
what's that doing? Alternate?
Well, like if you're going to do a Pfizer with one and a Moderna at the second, or AstraZeneca one, Pfizer second, like there was no there was no data to suggest that was safe to mix and match. We were just assuming.
I just just the consistency, not consistency, the repetitiveness. Like you had to have one every 3 months when it first came out. That
if it was
did
that
my
good,
head in.
why did you need to keep going?
That's what I mean.
Great.
Like we're talking about flu jabs now, right? If you take one a year to update your immune system on whatever the new viruses are out there. I've taken the flu jab once in my life when I was working in Canberra. I decided, you know what, I'm in Canberra, I should take it. I've never been sicker in my life.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
It
Sometimes that
completely
happens.
destroyed me for 2 weeks. I was bedridden. And ever since then, I've never had the flu again, and I've never
Yeah.
taken a shot.
Yeah, and it's interesting now. Like again, like I think that vaccines are a great thing. I think that they have helped us like astronomically. However, I think that we've gotten effective ways of vaccinating people, and I think this new approach with the use of mRNA technology is ridiculous. And now, I mean, we have an mRNA. Well, they're building like an mRNA vaccine development place in
Is that in
Victoria.
Victoria?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
Victoria, because like that's what they're going to start using. Like they want to do like a dual COVID flu vaccine that's mRNA. So they want to be like pumping this out.
Is that
mRNA.
Pfizer?
I'm not
Gave them
sure.
the cash for that?
No, I'm not really sure. I can't really answer that question. I just know that they're building something there to do research and vaccine development in the mRNA space. mRNA itself is a really interesting piece of technology, and it can be really effective in some areas. Like they are using it in things like specific types of like cancer treatments and whatever. The issue I have is that it was never used in this way before. It was like a one size fits all in terms of dosage. So, it didn't matter if I was 60 kilos and you were 100, like we were getting the same dosage. That can't be right, because I know that in a lot of the trials and studies that I was looking at, like for like the cancer research and stuff, and the people that have developed the technology, they've been saying like it's really dependent on the individual, and the dosage that given is dependent on X, Y, Z in the individual. So they've just rolled this out for everybody.
Take it out of the plastic.
Everybody,
line up your
yeah,
sleeve
and
and
it's
just jab. Yeah.
and you know what? If you wanted to do it, go for your life. I don't have any qualms with that. Like if people really wanted to do it and that was right for them, absolutely go for it. I think it's just really frustrating when it becomes something that you have to do to maintain your life and your livelihood, but then to like gaslight you and say it was never mandated, you didn't have to take it, but it's like, well, if I didn't, I couldn't work. So, what's the difference? It was a really awful time, and it does make it really scary, because you think if they've done this once, like why couldn't they do it again?
Well, I think they try to do something similar with this whole no cash.
Oh, the cashless society,
Yeah.
like they're doing in China.
Didn't they just
Yeah.
a few weeks ago say,
Yeah, they
if you
are.
can keep cash alive, withdraw some money or whatever it was?
It's actually crazy.
I thought it was fucking nuts,
Yeah,
man.
it's actually crazy, and it's like it's about the ability to like monitor what we're doing all the time.
Yeah.
Now I sound like my dad, but like it's just it's just like it's really, really scary. Like everything is so monitored and watched and controlled. It's really
Flybys, mate.
You know,
really
when
scary.
I-
Flybys, Woolworths points.
when I went to Melbourne a few weeks ago, there was many establishments that just were not taking any cash.
Yet they don't. And it's so interesting, like, because I had an argument with someone at Jetstar
Doesn't
at
sound
the
like you.
airport. I know. Go figure. Because my like carry-on bag weighed too much. It was like 400 grams over or something. So they charge you like $40 or something. And I was like, yeah, okay, here's $40. And they're like, oh, we don't take cash. I'm like, it's a legal tender. Like, you have to take cash. You can't say, like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, like, they're really trying to move away from cash. But legally, like, it's a legal tender. They can't not take cash.
Did they take
It's
the
ridiculous.
$40?
In the end, they did. Absolutely,
You
they
would've
did.
cracked the fucking shit.
I mean, like, yeah, sure, I could have pulled out my card, but I was like, it was just the principle of it. I was like, I've got cash, so you're going to have the cash. Like, it was like I had to force my money on them because,
well, even there, Adelaide Oval, cashless.
yeah, it's crazy.
You
isn't
cannot
it?
pay for anything in cash at
Yeah.
Adelaide Oval.
Like now?
now,
Like at all?
like last week.
Yeah, right.
But
That's
it's-
crazy.
Yeah, like I just went to rip out some cash and they're like, no, card only.
Yeah, nah, that makes me sick.
Try hosting a Greek night where all the
Without
Greeks
cash.
come with cash, right? To only be told by this certain venue, and I'm not mentioning the venue's
Oh,
name,
so it's a thing. It's actually happened.
Yeah.
that no cash was allowed that night. So
Begging.
all these Greeks were there with cash in their pockets to buy drinks,
ATO's
and then
loving
they had no way. I'm like, what do you do?
Right.
that. Fuck's sake. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it just makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it's legal tender. Why can't you? That was, oh man, what was that a few years ago? I remember seeing this little video on Facebook, and this guy went to pay his rego or something like that, or a fine, and he gave it to him in
Oh, the
$1.
1 cent pieces?
1 cent pieces or something
Yeah.
in America.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, you have to take it.
Yeah, it's legal tender.
It's legal tender.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's annoying, but
It's
it's still
annoying.
money.
Yeah, I think he just did it to stick it to him.
Take the piss. Yeah,
Yeah,
fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah. Just trolling everyone. It's the
Wow.
dream.
Wow.
Yeah. There you go.
So, okay, let's go back to you a little bit
Yeah.
because, we're really like going into different tangents
Yeah,
here.
I know it's crazy.
So I just want to,
So unexpected.
and obviously, I understand that, it's very hard to talk about it with, what you do and all that. But how do you see or how do you find the current mental health crisis in our state? I'll just say our state because that's where we are. But obviously, it's bigger around Australia. Do you find that there is enough funding and support going into the mental health industry?
Absolutely not. I think the issue that we're having is that we're so inundated with all these different issues in the hospitals. We've got ramping, we've got acute issues, we've got all this stuff happening. And mental health is one of those things where for a lot of people it can be really silent. So it might just creep up on them. Like something might happen in their life and it might just trigger them. And it's like they don't know where to go, where to start, what the resources even are. The resources that we do have, there are a few, there are a couple of good places around the place. I think there's one in the city, and I can't see, and even having worked in the industry, I can't even tell you what it's called, that does do a lot of really great work in the mental health space. I think particularly for men. I think it might be a men's only clinic. Is it on Grenfell Street? I'll have to find out.
do-
Are you talking about the urgent mental health clinic?
I think so.
Yeah, that's not just for men.
That's across the
yeah.
board, right? Yeah, and so we've got some resources. No one knows what they are, or where they are, or where to start. Firstly, secondly, yeah, we don't have enough. So we used to have Glenside Hospital. That was an inpatient hospital. That's since gone. That doesn't exist anymore.
How long's that been gone for?
A few years now.
A few years
They've
now.
they've built a whole suburb there now.
Yeah, there's townhouses and stuff there
that's
now.
right,
So that's been gone for a long time. But and I understand the logic and the concept in not wanting to institutionalize people that have mental health concerns because that doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. And so, integrating them into the community and making sure they've got the right support, the right medication, that's really, really important in that space. But the problem is there's not enough in the community to manage that. So, we've seen increased homelessness. I don't know if you guys see that very much. I see a lot more of it now. I don't know if it's because I'm really hyper aware of it, but there's a lot of it. And homelessness and mental health, unfortunately, do go hand in hand. And there's a lot more of it. I think, unfortunately, for men in particular, and I, don't say this to take away from a lot of the struggles that women have, because there are some really awful statistics in terms of mental health for women. But, 75% of our suicides in Australia, not sure about SA in particular, but in Australia are men taking their lives. Men's health outcomes in general are really, really poor, and I think are living less. I think it's 5 years less than women on average.
Probably.
So that's just the stress.
Standard.
But so for me, I'm looking at it and going right, and men in particular aren't going to be going out and looking for help or accessing services or waiting to access services. They might decide right then and there, right, I need to go somewhere, but might not have the option or might not know where to go or who to talk to.
Well, that'd just be time poor as well because, it's always expected And like I said, probably not in the modern day, but men will work more, to sustain a household, where the female may work part time or whatever. I'm saying this isn't modern day talking, but this is how they're thinking.
Yeah,
their
but I
thought
think
process, so they didn't have enough time to go.
Whether we're talking about modern days or whether we're talking about olden days, the male brain has always been that they're the supplier, they're the money maker, and they go out and they do all the hard work. It's always going to be in that sphere, isn't it? Right. So you find that
probably
3 out of 4 people who commit suicide are men, because these are people that have lost everything.
Yeah.
I work in the field where I deal with homelessness and I deal with a lot of mental health people, and unfortunately, you're right. That's all we see. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and it's not getting better. To answer your question in short, no. Like, there are not enough resources. There's not enough government funding to cover the resources. We have our mental health networks, like our southern, central, northern, but there's just not enough staff. There's not enough money. There's not enough resources. The government's not doing enough in the mental health space. I say that, and they're not doing enough in the acute healthcare space either. They just don't. It's just not being prioritised.
I just come once upon a time we used to have I don't know if we still do, but there used to be like a minister for mental health. Do we even have that anymore, or has it just been rolled into?
There is a health minister. I think.
Health minister.
Yeah, I think mental health does fall in that category.
Yeah, so it falls in
I
that
would
ministry
have to
now.
double check, though. Yeah.
Whereas once upon a time there was a minister for mental health, which was separate from the minister for health.
And
what I find is that the governments just don't. And I'm not talking.
Let's look that up. Let's fact check that. So
either side of the political pendulum, like. I just don't see any of these big parties actually taking mental health seriously.
No. And it's interesting, let me have a look here. Minister for Mental Health, does that exist? There's the Minister for Health and Wellbeing, that's Chris Picton. Yeah.
Okay.
But
so it's been rolled into one.
There's Emma McBride. What does she do? Let's have a look here. She's the Assistant Minister for Mental Health and Suicide Prevention. So, yeah, it looks like we do. I don't know what she's doing.
Is that in South Australia?
That's federal.
Oh, right.
That's federal.
Yeah. No, there is a Minister for Mental Health, but, yeah. I'm not sure. We'll have to look into it. We can link something.
Yep.
What was I saying? Remind me. No. So neither the Liberal or the Labor Party, I don't think, are doing enough. That being said, if we go back to men's mental health, I think, and this is what's really frustrating, is it becomes like we're talking about health and we're talking about people's well-being, but it's a political issue. It's been really politicized. If you talk about men's health, men's mental health, it's we shouldn't, because they don't really have problems. It's all about the minorities. When I say the minorities, I mean I don't mean minorities. I mean we're talking about women's health and we're talking about Indigenous health, all really important areas of health. When we want to talk about men, we just don't. And it seems that the political left don't want to talk about it at all. The political right try to address it, but then they're misogynists or something. So it becomes this really heated political issue. And it shouldn't be. It's just about health outcomes. But even Indigenous health has become a political issue when it should just be about the health outcomes for Indigenous people, which haven't improved. So whatever the government's doing, it's not enough and it's not working, because it's just all about getting re-elected at the end of the day. It's not really about the health outcomes because they haven't made gains. So yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but it's really frustrating that something like an individual's health and well-being is dependent on the political agenda of the party at any given time.
It's all about power, isn't it? And
that's the really frustrating thing, I think. Being someone that accesses the system, but also someone that works in the system, it's really tricky to navigate, and it's tricky to not get frustrated and burnt out and angry about what's happening, because it just feels like they're not listening or they're not getting it.
I guess if you ask a politician to fix it, it's okay, where would you like me to grab the money from?
Yeah, that's it.
Where in the budget, where can
Easy. I can answer that one.
How's that?
from their own back pocket.
Oh yeah. Stop taking your.
These are public servants. Why should they be getting paid $500,000? Put that money back into resources. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it's easy for us to sit here.
Say
And
that.
this is where you should spend the money. And obviously, like as someone that is a health professional, I'm obviously going to advocate for health because I think it's really important. I think it's less about like it's obviously money is really important, resources are really important. I think it's more about how they spend it rather than just like here's a lump sum of X.
yeah, look, I mean,
They don't know how to spend it well.
everything that they put in the budget is an important thing.
Absolutely.
Okay? We
Yeah.
can't deny that.
Yeah, majority.
But we look at what are the important things when you talk about politics and governments and where the money goes. What are the most important topics that you think should be invested in?
Health,
One,
Education.
education.
I think infrastructure is
Yeah,
important.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
I would say
infrastructure because that creates jobs.
Yeah.
Right, and also it gets our country moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
Oh, transport.
Well, that would fall under infrastructure.
I don't know. What would you say?
All right. So on a federal level, defense, military, billions of dollars goes into that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, do we need it all? That's the question.
Oh, who the fuck wants to come down to Australia and hurt us? You know what I mean?
But Australia,
just with the most
Australia is a
carefree
resource-rich country.
Yeah.
We produce so much iron.
Ore,
We produce so much that we export.
we won't fucking keep here, but we'll piss it off to
Exactly.
other countries.
Like, do you know we have our own oil here in Australia that we can't even use?
Oh, now we're going to start talking about this, aren't we?
Anyway, no, I'm not going to get there.
That's okay.
That's a whole different topic. But I'm just saying, like, education, health, infrastructure, very important topics, right? Yet so much more money goes into other.
But they do put money into those areas. But then, like, you look at the education system and you look at the outcomes and you look at the level of the test scores that we're achieving now. Our children aren't getting smarter. We're getting dumber. I think was it last week or the week before, I was listening to a podcast. Granted, this is based on US data, but it's the first time in like 70-something years that the IQ level has dropped on average. We're not getting smarter. We're
relying on Siris and Googles.
We are, like, as a society, we're like our younger generations are increasingly illiterate. Their numeracy is poor. They can't problem solve. They have no resilience. And, that's a direct result of the education system. I mean, I don't know what else it could be. I think, I don't know. That's another complex topic that we could talk about for hours. But, like, if there's money going into those areas and into health and whatever else, and the outcomes are getting worse, then what's going wrong? Like, what are we doing wrong? What is happening? And I do just think it's a result of political incompetence because, like, here's however many billion to address X issue, but the issue's not being solved. It's just getting worse.
They're putting billions of dollars into, I'm going to take education now. They're putting billions of dollars into education. Where does that then go from there? I'll tell you where it goes. Each school that gets given that funding goes and builds more buildings into their schools and colleges. It's not going on to the students and their education. It's going on to...
well, I don't know. I mean, how many of our public schools have been developed, though, here? Like, they're not great. A lot of the public schools in SA, I don't know.
They're not the best, but...
In terms of the buildings and stuff. I mean, independent schools don't get very much funding, if any, so they facilitate their own things. Catholic schools do get funding, and then obviously, government schools are completely funded. I don't know. Yeah, like maybe it's in buildings and whatever else. Otherwise, like I don't know. I don't know where it's going. Are teachers just more incompetent? I don't really know.
Well, the teachers now, I read an article this morning. There's a long-time teacher that is resigning from teaching because she was just abused by a 7-year-old. She was physically assaulted by a
Yeah.
7-year-old child.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Like
Right.
they can't, like teachers can't, and I use the word discipline for lack of a better word, but they can't tell children off or tell them when they're wrong or upset them anymore. You know, when we were at school and we turned out okay, if we did something wrong, we were told. We got time out, or we had to write lines, or our parents would find out, and then we'd go home and our parents would like tell us off tenfold. Now,
that was like you're more
I grew
scared
up.
of.
I grew up going to school where if we were completely out of line, the teacher was allowed to give us a backhander.
yeah, right. That might be too far. That never happened with me. But you know, I don't know. Like I just feel like we're in a time where there is no
Our-
consequence for
Yeah, the generation now, they're just soft, I think, and they can't take one constructive criticism or, you know, told when they're wrong, or you can't say that, or you can't do that. The moment, you know, not your parent, like so someone else, like a teacher or, you know, a senior person to yourself, you know, they say something like that. Oh, you can't talk to me like that. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, you can't do that. It's
Yeah.
like, mate, fucking when you
Yeah, I said the
grow
other
up
day,
in our old time, yeah.
My boys were being real a-holes. Like, I mean,
Your boys?
WWF style a-holes, right? And I just said, all I said to the oldest one, I said, mate, sit your bum down on the couch and do not move. What do you think his response was to me?
No.
He goes, you can't tell me what to do. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now, without getting, you know, old school violent, I think it's time that you get up and go to your bedroom because I don't like that attitude.
See, yeah, I don't know. You got to sort of be, I don't want to say politically correct, but you got to be sort of, there's a way now of disciplining your kids. It's just like, mate, the old school way was always, oh, yeah, I turned out fine, I guess. Well, fine.
I can't,
debatable.
Debatable.
I can't even count the number of wooden spoons that were broken over me and
Oh, yeah.
how many pots were thrown at me. I can't count the
And me,
amount of
the
times.
idiot, I used to go to the drawer to get the godale out and
Yeah.
give it to my parents.
Because you knew. You're like, yeah, I fucked up.
Yeah, you knew
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
fucked up, and I would hate sort of the repercussions later if I didn't just go get
Yeah,
it.
you felt guilty. I think that's the thing. I think there's no resilience, and that does again later in life. And what you're seeing in this sort of like period that we're going through now, in this like social political landscape, you're seeing no resilience. You're seeing this like inability to handle anything from like being told that you don't like something to, you know, like it's just. And that causing like a complete like meltdown and people aren't able to cope and you've got like trigger warnings and all this kind of shit and it's like, my God, like just because something is said doesn't mean that,
It's a be all and end all.
yeah. And yeah, like there's things that are going to upset you, absolutely, but you have to be able to, as an individual, deal with it
Just get on with it, mate.
because
you know?
how are you going to survive in life? Like how are you going to go out into the workforce and compete for that better role or have children and raise a family and make decisions if you can't cope with anything? And that's starting at a really early age, and it's starting in the school system as well. But, you know, that's a big part of that is that, you know, you've got both parents working now. So, like when we grew up, I mean, my mum was working. She worked full time, but I grew up with my grandparents and my cousins, and there was a very, like I was raised by my family. Now, a lot of children aren't raised by their parents because both have to work to be able to survive. So they're going to daycare, childcare. They're being raised by the government virtually, right? And, you know, it's just shifted the whole like landscape of family unit, family dynamic, parents' roles in children's lives. And so the teacher becomes, you know, the one that has to discipline the child because the parent's like, well, it's your responsibility. Why would a teacher want to be a teacher now? Like there's no support. It's a really interesting time and it really...
It is. And gone are the days where it all starts at home.
Because
it doesn't anymore.
Because parents
You know,
aren't
like-
home. And that's, you know, and that I think And that, like, if you really want to talk about like men's mental health, I think, and I would go as far as saying is that has been a destructive force for the family unit. Before, when you had family and community support and you went to church on Sunday and you had a community and you had people that were like-minded, or you had people that you would see every week and you had close social connections, that's gone now. Like that's gone. So, the family unit has been broken down, and that is impacting people's mental health, like drastically. I think, there's like a myriad of issues, but you do see it at that real family unit level. There's a lot of, and like we don't, like stuff isn't starting at home now because no one's home.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And even like little things, like I know this might be a bit far-fetched or whatever, but even the music now, like the music when we were growing up was completely different to the music we have now. So the kids are listening to the music now. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm reaching here or whatever, but I do feel the things they're listening to, the things that they're watching on TV are completely different
Culture's
to what we were
changed.
listening and watching when we were kids.
Culture's changed. Like when I was 12, I was like repping those halfway down the shin Billabong board shorts and a tank top. I was chilling. I was living my best life. Now, kids are 12, 13 and they are like done up with makeup and their hair and their dress. They look older. It's like, be a kid and enjoy that time. You don't need to grow up too quickly. You don't need to get involved in that shit too quickly. I think what you're trying to, like, the culture has shifted and it's impacting young people drastically. And I think social media has a massive role to play in that. We didn't have Facebook and Instagram and shit. TikTok growing up.
What was it? MySpace.
And even then, that was towards the end. For me anyway.
Or friends page.
MySpace came into my life when I was well into my 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're much older than us, mate. Sorry.
Are we going to go on to that again?
No.
I'm only 8 years older, man.
I'm older than you.
Oh, come on, man.
I'm
What, a year?
It's depressing.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm 8 years older than you and 7 years older than her. So I don't get your point. I'm not that much older.
Moving on, Val.
We've gone on so many tangents.
Oh,
this is the most chaotic episode ever.
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe
we
so.
might not even upload it.
I've lost my train of thought now because this guy keeps calling me old.
Yeah.
Stop. No, I think we were talking about the impact of culture and social media.
Yeah, so that was going to be my question, but you've obviously answered it. I was going to ask, do you believe that social media has played a very big role in the way that society is today?
Absolutely.
And with the mental health of people?
Yep.
Now, I'm going to bring up a particular platform, which we love chatting about, TikTok. Very toxic platform. I'm seeing people go on there and literally cry themselves on their lives because of the comments that are coming through from people. Yeah. It's like, one, if you don't like the comments that are coming through, then shut your live off. But obviously you keep doing it for attention, right? And it's not the right way about it. Then people, on the other hand, record that and go, keep on harassing and bullying this person. So I read a statistic that majority of the, in the past year, majority of the suspected or alleged suicides caused by social media harassment and bullying have been because of that platform.
That's not really surprising though.
Don't know. Haven't heard anything about it, to be honest. I'm not on TikTok and I don't particularly like TikTok. I think I don't particularly like social media at all. I think when you really want to break it down, if you look at social media and the internet and all of the technology that we have now, we are the most connected that we've ever been in history, yet we're the most lonely that we've ever been in history. So we're so lonely because we don't know how to develop relationships. We don't know how to socialize. So you've got these people that find communities online on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, whatever else. And that's how they connect because they don't, because there is no other way. But the rates of loneliness are so high, but you would think that we should have the opposite, where we're so connected that we should be, be able to access that need for connection at any time. But it's not the same. You can never replicate human connection through social media. I think in some ways, like, it does have its benefits. Like, we can't sit here and trash it and be like, oh, it's all shit. There are people that make their living on TikTok and they post content that's completely fine and completely appropriate and do really well, and power to them. Like, absolutely free speech. I'm all about it. Not that that's a thing here in Australia, but, I have no issue with that. I think the trap that we fall into is that there are people that use the platform that, I guess, fall into areas of the platform that are damaging, that are dangerous. We see increases in. I don't want to touch this topic, but the rapid increase in the amount of children that have decided that they are trans is astronomical, and I think a lot of that has to do with social media and the people that they connect with, and that they feel like, oh, I'm different, I don't fit in. They find this area of the internet, of this social media platform, and they're like, oh, these are my people, I must be, like, there must be something wrong with me. And then we see issues related to mental health. We see, like, them questioning their identity, their sex, their whatever. So there is such potential for a big spiral when you look at platforms like that. And social media in general, and they're not regulated well. They're certainly not regulated well when it comes to, like, what's actually posted. Like, Facebook, I don't know how closely you guys follow American politics, but in the last election, like, Facebook have actually come out and said that they were censoring information on COVID and the election in order to get the outcome that they wanted. So there's a lot of control in the back end to feed people what they want them to see, basically.
There's no, talking about free speech, that's been taken away from all aspects of social media. There's no network where you can.
No, well, I mean, you've probably
Safely.
seen now with the Australian government, Elon Musk is coming out and saying, I'm not going to listen to you, because they want him to take down those videos of that priest getting stabbed off of X. And Elon Musk is basically saying, I'm not going to have an international government tell me what to do.
No.
And so there's a bit of tension there now. That's an
I
interesting
didn't
story.
even
Have a look
hear
at it.
about
Yeah,
that.
have
Yeah,
a
I
look.
did.
The Australian government's trying to crack down on free speech, and Elon Musk is going like, oh, have some of these ones, and no one's happy about it. Yeah, like
This all
scary.
stems from the recent thing that they've just voted on in Parliament. The what's it called? The ID. Electronic ID. What's it?
Yeah, that's basically like, I guess in the same vein of the cashless society thing. It's like the electronic ID. So, you log on to your MyGov account and all of your stuff's there.
All in one place.
It's all in one
That's
place,
why
conveniently.
I never signed up to that whole My Health thing.
No. You could opt out, I think, but you had to opt out.
Yeah.
I think everyone was opted in, but
Yeah,
you had to
you
opt
had to
out.
opt out,
Yeah.
But what is
Yeah,
it?
My Health Record.
Yeah.
My health record.
Yeah, so once you log into MyGov to do your taxes and that, you've also got the tab that brings up your Medicare, and if you're on Centrelink, it brings up your Centrelink. There's another one. There's another tab where it was My Health Record, and it lists every single thing in your medical history on there. But you could opt in or out. Well, no, like you said, you're probably already opt in, but you have to opt out if you don't want your medical records online.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's a
I
thing.
haven't seen it.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, where that electronic ID thing comes in. It's really intense. Like, you could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but it is really intense. And I think, like, yeah, we're going off on tangents, but it's all really connected.
It is.
There
It
are
all
so
comes
many
back
different
down to the
facets.
reason why mental health has increased
Yeah.
in the past few years, and that is purely because we are heading in the wrong way. We're
Yeah.
heading on the wrong path. There is no socializing anymore.
No, there's no
Right.
culture anymore.
No,
There's
no,
no
and it doesn't matter
community.
what background you come from. The sense of community's been lost.
Yeah, and I think, when you talk about like people that are posting on TikTok and they're getting really negative reactions or whatever, or they feel like you know, the reception they're getting is not good or whatever it might be. It's like, yeah, like get off the platform. If they delete their TikTok account, it's like FOMO, like, oh my God, like everyone else has still got it. Like I can't be off the platform. It's like this addiction. It's
a drug.
Yeah, it is.
But I think now just social media is just really, like you said, it can be good. People can get connected around the world, and you know, again, you know, you have a business. It's probably the best source of advertising.
Yep.
But I think it's now more counting the views, counting the likes, counting this. You don't get the views. You feel
because the platforms have been monetized. That's why.
But also,
the more views you have, the more popular you are, and then the platform pays you for it.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, but also,
just an everyday person.
Yeah, but every time. So if you like upload a photo, and like every time you get a like or a comment or whatever, you literally get a dopamine hit. Like it's like research. It's been studied. You get a dopamine hit. It's literally like a drug, and that's really addictive. That's really addictive, and that's people's way of feeling like they're being accepted or they're being appreciated or whatever it might be. So that's like that's a really hard habit to break. Like we can sit here and be like, oh, it's really hard to quit smoking, or it's, you know, if you're an alcoholic, like it's really hard to stop drinking. It's not easy. This is just as much of an addiction. You're literally getting a chemical reaction in your brain when you get that like, or when you get that positive comment on TikTok. And that just makes you feel like you're on top of the world. So, you know, when you're getting that hit, why would you want to turn it off?
It's true.
It's really tricky. And like you're dealing with a lot of people on the platform are in that really vulnerable stage of development too. Like, you know, our brains aren't fully developed till we're like 25, I think. You know, and they're young teens, or they're like in their really early teens, young teens, really late adolescence. And they're the ones that are really struggling with it. And their brains aren't developed. They're not able to reason. They're not able to make good decisions. And their self-esteem is at a really vulnerable time. Like bodies are changing, they're feeling different, chemical imbalances, all this stuff is happening, and then they're trying to compete with other people online that are filtered, you know, that look amazing, like whatever. It's a really toxic space if you're not careful. And as a parent, I think it would be really difficult to navigate that.
Oh, mate, the only thing that Dimitri's got is Messenger Kids, so he can keep up to date with his soccer mates and his mates on at school and all that sort of stuff. But apart from that, I mean,
he doesn't have Roblox.
Yeah, Roblox.
Yeah.
Isn't it just games?
Don't chat through Roblox.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Isn't Roblox just a game?
Yeah, but you connect with people.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
As much as I know.
I don't know.
Just saying.
YouTube as well. It's just like, fucking hell, Dimitri, enough with the YouTube, man.
It's a lot.
No, he's coming up with me, and he's coming up to me with all these lingo bullshit things that these kids are all speaking. What the fuck is that, man?
I just want to understand where we went from, you know, like when my kids were born, I went from dada to dad to bruh.
Or Dimitri, bruh. Or even when we've come to your house, the first time I thought we brought Dimitri to Carissa's house, and he's brought his tablet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right, and we're watching
footy or something.
No, for God knows what reason. Every time we catch up with Carissa and her husband, it's always around the Australian Open time. So we're watching the Australian Open.
You only see this bloke once a year.
No.
This is like a year and a half ago that this happened. No, I see Stamati often.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, geez, you're a lucky person.
This happened about 18 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dimitri just rocks up. He's brought his little tablet, whatever. He's just going through it, and then he's just put his YouTube on the TV.
Yeah.
Now
just connected it.
Now I'm used to it. He's very tech savvy, you know, on his whatever. And Chris was like, "How the fuck did you do that?"
I can barely turn the TV on, let alone connect an iPad. But how old? It was 18 months ago, so he was what, like 5.5?
Yeah. No. Well, he's turning 7 on Friday.
Yeah. So 18. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I guess so.
literally 5.5. Like, it was
Happy birthday for Friday, Dimitri.
Yeah, Dimitri,
You'll hear this episode
the angel.
after you turn 7.
Yeah. So he just blew Carissa's mind. Like, how the fuck did you do that?
It's scary, but this is the thing. Like again, like in practice, if I relate it back to what I see and what I do day to day, like children and their ability with their fine motor skills, their ability to handwrite, to manipulate small items, to do up buttons and zips and things like that, which is all stuff that we do in our practice. They can't. They really struggle. Things like trunk control and gross motor, like. Kids aren't outside climbing, running, doing all that stuff that we did when we were kids. They're inside playing video games. They're not getting that same level of, input into their joints and into their muscles. And we're seeing such issues in those spaces. They're increasingly dependent. They're unable to do the basic things that we would call basic back in the day, like being able to write your name. Like that's a struggle for a lot of kids. And it's, and I think that, I think it's parents not being home, they're working, technology, all those things. It's great in some ways, but it's detrimental in others.
Parents just think that by just sending them to a school, just throw money at them and they'll be fine. Where it's the parents' responsibility as well. Like before I called you, you didn't answer and you said, helping James with his homework. It's like, as a parent, like even me, before I got here, I was sitting down with Dimitri, and I only had like a quick 15 minutes. By the time I got home from work to when I had to be here, I said, the parents need to be present in their kids' education. You can't just send them, I'm going to go spend 10, 15 grand or whatever you got, whoever people spend at schools. Just chuck money at the problem, it should be fine. No, you need... that's fine if you want to, but you still need to be.
Do you know back
present.
in my day what chucking money at the problem was?
What?
My father and mother, they sent me to school. If the only time they would spend extra on education was if I was failing in something, like for example in year 11, for example, I was shithouse in maths, absolute shithouse. I'm not going to lie, and they got me a tutor to come home, and they paid for it, right? That was the extra spending. But they wouldn't throw it at the teacher because at the end of the day, it all comes back to my parents teaching me at home about certain things and that. But there was complex stuff that my dad, he never got an education. So he paid someone to help me with it.
But I think the point there is that your parents were able to identify and pick up that there was a gap
Correct.
for
Yeah.
you. That's not always the case. So present for education for sure. I mean, I'm not a parent, but just present in general. That's not.
In general.
That's not common.
My daily, this is my daily schedule. I see the kids in the morning when we all wake up. We have breakfast together. We sit around, do stuff before school. I go to work. Wife normally would pick them up, or my mum. She'll then pick them up from my mum. I come home after 5:30, and between that time and when they go to bed, it's all family time.
Yeah.
Homework.
That's not the norm.
Catch it. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But that's what I want at home to make sure that my kids know I'm there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
great.
That
And I guess we're blessed in a way that my wife and her job, it gives her so much flexibility to work from home, be able to pick up the kids and all that. My job doesn't have that. I'm not that flexible, but I make time.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
they return to school today. So we get home, have dinner, have a shower, and then sit down on the couch and do homework. Very important. Very important that you sit down with your child to go through
And that's where
whatever it
that's
is.
That's where you learn those things and where you pick up those things. Like my dad worked a lot when we were growing up, self-employed, had his own business, whatever. But I was so heavily impacted by him because he was present when it mattered, even though he didn't really have the time. I knew exactly what the expectation was. I knew where he sat. I knew, I understood. And as I got older, this became more prominent because I understood more. So I was very much shaped by that, by my parents. And I'm stoked for that. I think that I'm really privileged and really blessed that was the case because it's not what I see day to day generally. And I don't blame the parents half the time. You know, like a lot of the time they either come from broken families, so, you know, mum's really stressed out, or mum has gone through her own trauma and her own abuse or whatever it might be. So, you know, there's a range of issues there. And I think, yeah, I just have this real thing about this 2-parent household and the 2 parents needing to work, and that being really detrimental to children and to their relationship with their children. And it's a problem, but it's a societal problem that we've created.
It's only going to get worse.
I tend
Cost
to
of
agree.
living, people losing homes like a drop of a fly.
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
it's-
It is. And
you
if,
know,
if you're both not there, then at least, you know, like say if I'm, you know, working late, you know, Katrina will pick up the slack, or vice versa. You know, if she has to go do things, then I'll pick up the slack with the kids. You know, it's just how it is. And you know, like you said, your dad was, you know, and was self-employed, and the same with me. I'm self-employed. You've got to try and manage that time. Sometimes obviously there's no choice. There's deadlines that you have to meet and whatever. But then there's, you know, Dimitri wanted to play soccer, so I joined up at soccer, and then, you know, I ended up being a coach at Comets, you know, I did that. Well, I didn't have time to do it, but I just said, fuck it.
You had to make time.
Going to do
You
it.
did it.
And then that
Yeah.
way I know I'm going to be there at every single game day, because it's not just my son, depending on myself and, you know, say George and that, but it's the rest of the team. So I've had to force myself, and which is sucks when you think of it like that for me, right? I've had to force myself to commit to a coaching role, so I'm there for my son and other kids.
But kids,
I see that as a positive, though.
yeah, I agree.
Because yes, you forced yourself into giving up work, but at the same time, have you really given up work? Because you're still doing your job, you're still completing your tasks, you're reaching your goals and all that, but you've also given yourself more family time. Because soccer to you is not just about the boys; it's about actually, you
Spending
know,
time with my own
like
son.
me, spending time with my own kid. And yes, I'm focusing on the other children as well, but I'm still spending time with James.
Yeah.
And think about, like, kids are so smart. They absorb everything around them. They're so clever. Him seeing that you're there week in, week out is really important for him. Dimitri seeing that, it's like, Dad's there. Like, you're a safe space for him.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids don't have that.
No.
And that, you know, that causes a host of issues. You know, it's a lot, and it's so multifactorial. But, like, yeah, I think that if you can prioritize the time, that it's really important that you do, because kids are really, really receptive, and they're really clever, and they'll pick up on parents not being there or not being able to cope or not being able to manage. And, you know, children shouldn't have to grow up too quickly either. So having parents that are present and active is super important for their development. You know, like we talk about trauma in children. A child that undergoes trauma or that experiences trauma, their neurodevelopment is actually stunted at that point. So, you know, there's like developmental delay and a host of other issues if they do experience trauma. So having parents present and, you know, engaging with them and loving them, and having boundaries and rules, all of that is super important for their development and their learning, and self-respect and respect for their elders and their parents and whatever else. So it's a really appreciated and under-talked about area. We don't really talk about the importance of the presence of parents in a child's life.
It's super important.
Yeah, it's massive.
Even like now, you know, this last year, you know, I got like a family pass or season tickets to the all the Port home games.
Ugh.
Fucking Dimitri. Oh yeah, she's crow supporter.
They're trash.
They're not actually
They're trash.
crows are trash.
They are
this
trash.
year.
They are trash.
I'll just move to this side.
You know, and it's fucking Dimitri loves it, because I remember I used to go because like Dulux and stuff used to take me all the time, and then, you know, I would say to Dimitri, "Oh, mate, I'm going to the game." He goes, "Oh, can I come?" And like he'd run into his room, put on like a scarf, a hat, and he goes, "Oh, can I come?" And then I'm like, "Fucking next year,
You're
doing it. Family pass. I've got 4 tickets. Katrina never comes because she's a crow's head, but Theodore is a member.
Bless him, little potato.
But yeah, it's more time. Like last Friday, he is
It's so true, though. It's so true.
Little potato, little potato.
He is the
Little
cutest little kid, honestly.
Yeah, that smile. Like he could give you the shits. Like I know now, Katrina. What time is it now? It's at almost 10 o'clock.
Way past Carisha's bedtime.
Oh my
way
God, 2 hours past my bedtime.
Yeah, he would be waking up now again. It's only the last sort of couple of weeks, and he just want someone to lie with him. Like he'll be in the cot and he put his hand out and he just wants to hold your hand so you can go to sleep.
He's so cute.
It's like, oh, it's all right. But yeah, back to So Dimitri loves going to the Port games. He'd love to go to anything, and now
He only goes for the fruit chocks. You know that.
Oh yeah, that's so true. But yeah, time with your kids. It's good.
No, I love it. It's definitely something that I don't want to lose. I don't care how old my kids are. I'll sit there and embarrass them for all I give a shit. Like if it means that I'm in the same room as them, and we get to do things together.
And then you know what? And then if with parents having that sort of mentality, your kids will be all right.
Oh, I believe so. I think
a good foundation anyway.
like I don't allow my kids on technology much. On the weekend, they can have 1 hour a day of Nintendo.
Fuck, I wish to meet
Right?
you.
And that's it. They don't watch YouTubes or anything like that on TV. I don't allow Netflix or any crap before school. They can watch Channel 22 or they can watch Channel 13, right? The kids' channels on TV, right? Yeah. When it comes to the weekend, I treat them. If they do something really good during the week, then they might get a little bit extra, But my kids have learnt to be outdoor kids. They'll be running around in the backyard or riding their scooters up and down. Tonight they were riding scooters inside the house.
Oh, Stav would love that.
Oh, yeah, I loved that too. I loved it, especially when one of them fell off and cracked their head on the side of the wall. That was
fantastic.
The best feeling ever. Not.
Yeah, no.
Because then you start getting all this anxiety like, oh my God, he's split his head. Fuck. Yeah. I can't go do my podcast tonight. Yeah. But, because of that, they've become that outdoor kid and they socialize really well when they're around other kids. They're not afraid. They get straight into it. My youngest son got invited to a party on Saturday. Normally, in the early days of his school, mate, he would be clinged onto mum or me, would not go interact at all. Apparently on Saturday, I wasn't there, but he just jumped straight into it.
Beautiful.
It was at a bowling party at Goodwood. Bang, straight into it.
Good.
Why? Because that's what I've installed in my kids.
Have to.
Have your boundaries. If you don't feel safe, don't do what you want to do, or what you're being asked to do. But when you're around your mates, have fun. So yeah.
Battery only 10%. That's going to say something.
Yeah, that you haven't charged your stuff.
It's 100%.
Mind you, my cameras are on red too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So look, we've covered a lot of topics.
Yeah, I don't know if we actually really achieved anything, did we? We really was running around in circles for a couple hours, but
Well, we did.
I enjoyed it though.
Yeah.
You
was
definitely you opened up a lot more to our listeners heard a lot more about the fact that mental health services here in South Australia and probably Australia as a whole
Needs work, right?
I think across the board they need work, and I'm really hoping that some change does happen because it's only going to get worse. But we do what we can, where we can, within our scope, and we try. But there's only so much as individuals that we can do when we're not necessarily supported, I guess, in other ways. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It was awesome. And I'm sure we'll be speaking about this when we catch up outside here. So.
Absolutely. God help us.
You can tune into our next episode. Launches on Sunday.
Amazing. I'll
What-
listen to the next one.
We have to think of what to call the episode.
Carissa's podcast.
Just chaos.
Chaos. That's what we're going to call it.
Chaos.
Carice and chaos.
This is
Blokes T-Shirts.
Blokes Bits. Here we are. So Stamati, tell me.
How much sleep did you have?
None. I am red eye at the moment.
Because I stayed up, watched the whole game
Yeah,
last night.
and then
we're referring to the North London derby there.
St. Tottenham's Day.
Yes.
Yeah, where London is red.
London is red.
North London is red.
No, London.
Yeah, London is red.
London. Yeah.
Technically, London can now only be either red or sky blue
Why is that?
because they're the only two teams really in it for the championship, aren't they?
Well, no, one's Manchester and one's a London club.
All right, you know what I mean. Okay, England.
England.
But wow, what a morning! What
Oh,
a morning! How can I ask? On a scale of 1 to 10, what were your anxiety levels last night or early this morning?
All right, so half time 3-0 up. I'm like, oh, fuck, this is going to be like a 4-5-0, no problems. And then it just turned. Like, Ange must have given him a real kick up the arse. And Raya just fucked it. And I was actually listening to a podcast on the way here, so I listened to an Arsenal one. And they were saying it looked like when he was kicking it out, he went to kick it to a player, but then there was a couple of other like Tottenham players going on him and to that player, and then he sort of pulled the pass back a bit, and then he fucked it. That's when I don't know, whoever got it from Tottenham came through and got the goal. I'm like, okay, 3-1, that's not bad. And then we gave away a penalty. I'm like, okay, fuck. 3-2, and then they were pressing. I reckon if they had another 15 minutes, they would have equalised. And they would have just fucked everything up for us.
How about the disallowed goal though? Did you see the disallowed
them?
goal for them?
For that, yeah, it was offside.
Yeah,
By a mile,
but-
mate.
Really?
By a fucking mile.
Because the player that kicked the goal was not offside.
No.
He was behind the defender.
Yeah, no, the lead. You got to look up the lead up though. He was
All right,
offside.
Okay, we're going all the way back there.
No, you have to.
All right. Anyway, regardless.
But then their penalty shout, it's like, fuck off, mate. You tripped over. He tripped over himself. And then they sort of went into each other. Like, nah, fuck
All
off.
right.
And then Saka, that was the goal when Saka
so
scored.
we are now facing down the barrel of 3 more games to go. And where are we? Man City also won this morning, 2-0 against Nottingham.
But did you see the highlights for that game?
yeah.
Forest fucked up heaps.
Yeah, big time. All right, so Arsenal, the left games. So we've got Bournemouth this Saturday night at 9 o'clock.
And then don't we
Nice
have
early game.
Man U away?
Then we have Man U away, and then we've got Everton at home. So clearly 2 wins from there.
Yeah, I'm fine with all 3.
The only thing that we need to hope for is Man City, obviously, to
Draw
at least
against
drop or draw a game.
Tottenham.
Yeah, that's
Do you reckon they'll do us a solid? Absolutely
Oh.
fucking not.
they probably won't, man.
No, but you know what? This is the
thing.
thing. Ange.
What have they got left? They've got 4 games left, don't they?
Who?
So they've got Wolves on Friday.
That's a tough game.
They've got Fulham away.
Not really a tough game.
They've got Tottenham away.
Tough game.
And then they've got West Ham.
Tough game.
So fingers crossed.
Yeah. Where are West Ham? Are they like 6th or 7th
Oh, and they've also got the FA Cup as well.
against Man U? But that's at the end of the season, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's yeah. So yeah,
Yep. Port Adelaide got the win. 10 points.
Crows got the win.
Who gives a fuck about the Crows?
65 points.
Who did you play again?
Do you follow soccer?
Nah, follow AFL. Crows are shit. But that being said, you guys won by 10 points and half your team got fucked up in
Injured.
the process.
Yeah, so Sam Powell-Pepper out for the rest of the season.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Knee?
Your
ACL?
knee. Yep.
Yep. Old mate Aaliyah got a head knock.
He's out for 2 weeks. And who
Rosie,
else was it?
your
Rosie
mate
hamstring.
Rosie, hamstring, yeah. What happened to Burn Jones though? Didn't he look a bit shaky?
Bit how you going?
Came off, yeah, a bit how you going. He went back on, I think.
I don't know.
But I was kind of hoping
It was
for all four.
those three were like, fuck, I'm a bit nervous.
They're big, like they are big
Big
names
outs.
for the showdown this Thursday, which we will.
Oh,
lose.
is it showdown week?
Oh, Thursday,
This
yeah, it's
Thursday,
showdown
yeah.
week.
Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
What's the deal with that?
I don't get it. I have to work the next day. Like the fact that I think I'm going to stay up to watch that shit is not a thing.
Yeah,
Is it a Port or Crows home game?
Crows.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dimitri's actually, he gets Friday off. Good Friday. Greek Good Friday.
Oh, of
Orthodox
course.
Good Friday.
It's Orthodox
And
Good
Monday.
Friday. Yeah, well, it's Easter. It's Easter
Can't
Monday.
believe it. I was like, you
Oh,
fuckers
that's
do.
fair.
Yeah, I
That's
was like,
fair.
yeah, fair call.
That's fair.
So
What,
yeah,
does St. George give Monday off too?
yeah, but I think it's a I don't know.
Pupil free day?
Yeah, no, it's not. They don't have the pupil free days. I think it's something else. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. No, but
The
normally
more school fees you pay, the more days off.
days
you
off.
get.
Yeah. But normally his school, they don't have any of those pupil free days. What they do, like, because I don't know, normal school, like public school, they all have their pupil free days and teachers' days and all that sort of stuff. What we do, what they do, is they won't give out any of them, and then they'll have, I think it's term 2, they'll have 3-week holiday.
Yeah, they get extra time off.
Yeah, they'll have a
Yeah.
3-week
Oh,
holiday.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because, all Greeks, they go to Greece in June, July. So,
I'm glad that they count for that. But yeah, showdown Thursday.
yeah, showdown Thursday.
Rory Sloan also retired today. I don't know if you saw that.
So is that effective immediately?
I believe, yeah, he's not going to play again.
Yeah.
Oh, so he won't be at the showdown?
And you know what?
No.
They won't do a farewell game or
they
nothing for him?
probably-
He won't
He'll do a
play.
lap, he'll do a
but he
lap.
might do something. Yeah.
And you
he
know
announced
what?
his retirement today.
Even from a Port
Crows will
perspective-
win it for him.
No, they won't. Even from a Port perspective, I actually do feel sad for him because
Oh,
he was
he
a
was a
fucking gun
Brilliant player.
player, and he
Yeah.
just
So
got,
why is he retired?
I think it's the eye. Is
He
it the eye?
had, I think, like 2 detached retinas in like a year, and he decided that for his health, it was best for him to retire.
Okay.
Yeah, so he made that call. They announced it today.
Yeah.
Yeah, gun player. He was.
Gun.
You
Gun.
can't take
Yeah.
that away from him.
No. Oh well, here's what it is.
There you go. There's no F1 news this week.
No.
No F1 race. So I've got nothing to talk about the F1.
No.
But I know they're in Miami next week. So that should be fun because I really want to see Ricardo get some points. Will he get some points? Or will Stroll do better? And anyway,
Stroll's a malacca.
we know that.
Anyway,
Good stuff.
done.
That's it, guys. Like always, make sure you jump on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I didn't say Twitter this time.
No.
There you go. At 2 Blokes in a Pod, one word, or you can find us on our website at 2 Blokes in a Pod and send us an email so we can get your t-shirt orders in. They are
Yes.
ready to roll. $35 a t-shirt. With all proceeds going to a mental health fund of, I guess, our choice.
Yeah, we'll pick a couple.
Maybe
and then-
we'll put a vote out to the public and
Yeah.
see which one they want us to donate.
Yep.
We'll put the top 4 or something, and then we
Yep.
can choose a charity from there.
Sounds good.
What do you reckon?
Sounds good to
all
me.
good. Carice, again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for talking with me. It was fun.
It's okay.
Anytime, you're welcome on the pod anytime.
Thanks.
I'm pretty sure that we could go into deeper and darker spaces.
I want to come back so we can talk about the 2024 election.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Are we talking US election?
Talking about Trump Biden?
Oh my God,
Yes.
yes.
That's what I live for.
Oh.
We might get you back for a couple of episodes then, like the
I'd
lead
love
up,
to
the
do-
mid, and then the result or something.
Let's kick it off. I'd love to talk about
When is
Trump
it?
Biden.
Is it September, October?
November.
November.
Yeah.
November.
November. We can have it.
And at this stage,
Forget about
it does look like Biden is going down the rabbit
Oh,
hole.
you never know. You never know. I mean, the guy's senile, but you never know, do you?
You never know. I mean, they could always rig it again.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that next time.
Damn.
All right, guys. That's
Thanks.
it. Thank
See
you.
you guys.